Well, that was Grandia 2. By all accounts, a wonderful game. I love this game. This is one of the ones that, ever since, as I mentioned before going through the LP, I played this when I was a lot younger. But it's one of the type, I played quite a lot of games when I was younger, but I play quite a lot of games now too. But this one always stuck in my mind. I always remembered this one and remembered how great it was. And there's not so many that really stuck in there. Let's talk about it a little bit. Where should we start? Let's start with it's an RPG, so we'll start with the story. The story to a young teenage me was incredible, absolutely incredible, mind-blowing. Ideas I never thought about, duality of good and evil, the blurring of the line between the two. It was all very new to me at the time, and now I'm a lot older. I've played a lot more games, read a lot more books, and explored this kind of plot from many different aspects and very many different views, and it's not so outstanding. Outstanding as in above and beyond anything else. It was just the first time that I'd really seen it portrayed in this way, and you have a direct effect about what's happening, and you have both in your party as well. The games I played before that, all the guys have been all good guys on your team, whereas here Millennia was a bad guy. She was Valmar, right? And it was a really interesting dichotomy with her and Elena. I remember even back in the day, I always felt like they were sides of the same coin, which is essentially what they were. And I think that was a very nice way to boil down the overarching idea of Granis against Valmar, good against evil, etc., etc. And it made it more accessible, I think. Looking at it now as a grown man and looking at the story, I think they could have done a lot more with it. I think when you got to the bit when you have the automata and you've got all these plants and everything like that, and the ancient civilizations, they could have explored that a lot more, I think. But this is at its heart a very simple story, but told very well, I think. The characters were likable. I liked all the characters. It's a personal thing, I think, but I kind of prefer it when you don't have so many characters that you have in your main party. I mean, we only ever had 4 maximum, and for me, I prefer that because these are my team, these are guys I'm working with, and I think it helps with the continuity as well, because you're not running around doing all these fights in these dungeons where you got a squad of 9-10 people, but there's only 3 of you in the battle or something. It's like, well, what are the other guys doing? So I always preferred that, and they did that very well. I mean, Marek dying was soul crushing for me. I mean, even now it was awful. His Marek is awesome. And that was a real, it was a real bummer, really. So all in all, I think they did a good job. I think you got to bear in mind that this was made 20 years ago now. It's an old game. If they did it now, I think it could be a little more nuanced, perhaps, and developed a little bit more. But on the whole, I thought it's a good one. I played this up at around the time when I was reading things like Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials, and that deals with very, very similar things. And it was fascinating for me, absolutely fascinating. So on the whole, they did a very good job, I think. And I think if it was written now, it could have been, epic, I think. The story of the way the game played, going through it, it's an incredibly linear game. It is that you don't really have any choices about where to go. There's not really any side quests. It's almost like they kind of started doing side quest stuff where you can get poff nuts from people, but then I think we saw those Caro things in 2 dungeons. So I was like, well, what was the point of that? And then what did they do? Just lit the place up a bit. So in that regard, I think it was a bit sort of I don't know. I wonder if they originally were going to do more with that, and there were going to be more side quests and more places to go. I don't really know the story of the development, so that's kind of the feeling I got though. And yeah, I mean, normally I like doing side quests and stuff because it adds more to the world, you know, and I liked being in this world. And I would like to have seen more of it. I'd like to go on to other places, and you know, if this game had an actual open world and had a world map that you could navigate freely, it would have been right up there with the same generation Final Fantasies, with Tales of Symphonia, things like that. It would have been up there, but because of that, it was very, very linear. I mean, the only other place you could go was that Rowell Hills bit right at the end, and then again there was another bit there where you could get those crap weapons, and it was like, well, what's the point of this? They literally, as far as I could tell, I looked into it a bit, and they do nothing. You can't do anything with them. I mean, I might be wrong, or maybe I missed something, but I looked into it a bit, and I couldn't find anything that said, oh, if you do this with them, they turn into this, whatever. So, well, what's the point of this? And then they just had that one area where you can get a few extra items, but it's nothing special. I mean, they had one new enemy that was a tough enemy, a lot of HP, very strong attacks, you know, wipe party out in one go. I mean, certainly harder than the final boss. Well, stronger than the final boss. If it had the same amount of HP as the final boss, then yes, it would have been much harder. So that was a little disappointing, but it's a simple game. It's a relatively simple story, and I don't think it detracted too much, as long as you know what you're in for, you know. Final Fantasy 13 had a very similar thing, but then they had their Grand Pulse where it really opened up, so that kind of compensated a little bit, whereas this game really didn't have that. But for me, that was fine. I mean, I like the story, I like going place to place, and it was very much, if you do all the fights on your way from A to B, then you'll have no trouble with this game. Even in hard mode, didn't have any trouble at all, you know. But that leads on to the battle system. But this is one of the most enjoyable battle systems I've played. It's so simple, but so much fun. Trying to plan out what you can do, you can see what's coming, but people are moving at different speeds, so it still is an element of judgment in there. You know, are you going to be able to get your turn in before their attack gets up there? It can be quite tough, you know. And if you don't know what you're doing, or you're not really that prepared, it can be havoc. But then it's very satisfying when you get that cancel in, or you get a counter, or you plan it all out and you're putting the actions in, and they'll go tack 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 tack. Do a load of things, like maybe you'll finish one enemy, swing into the next one just as that's about to attack one of your party members and get a counter. It's incredibly satisfying, and I really think that this type of battle system without IP bar, it's a trick that's been missed by a lot of games that came after this, particularly RPGs, where they, you know, they're trying to move away from the turn-based battle system, which for me is so stupid. Because Final Fantasy 15 was a fine game, you know. The battles though were just a blur, and I didn't really care for them at all, you know. Because they're trying to incorporate this mesh between action-based and turn-based, and for me, this is the way to do that. This is the way to have that. It's live action. I mean, you're not moving around or anything like that, but your characters do move around the battlefield. And it is turn-based, but the turns aren't always in the same order, and you have to make a judgment on when those turns are going to come. Which for me, that is one of the things that stuck with me most for all these years, is how much I enjoy the battle system when you get that cancelling, when you just plan it out just right and it all falls into place very nicely. It's great. It's really good, and I wish they would do something similar to that. I mean, there may well be games that are similar to this. I don't know what Grandia 3 is like. I never played that one, or Grandia 1 either, actually. So I don't know. It might be something to look into. The graphics for the time were great. I thought they were really good. I mean, this is 2000. This came out. I mean, Final Fantasy 7 was 1999. and the difference is huge. It's massively different. I mean, yeah, the camera's a bit strange, but I mean, for the time, they're excellent. They're really, really good. And also the music was terrific. I loved the music in this game. Absolutely loved it. From the battle music to the little bits like this we're hearing now, to the emotional piano music where they're having their revelatory moments and things like that. It was fantastic. Really, really good job on that. And the character, well, and another part of the characters. The character was great. I liked Ryudo. He started off as a bit of an idiot, and he is a bit of an idiot all the way through. But but he was fine. He was generic enough that you can put yourself into that role. They had the nice duality with Millennia and Elena there, and Rowan as well. So had a bit of a coming of age, becoming king. Marek, a stalwart beast man who just dies out of the blue, and really, for me anyway, he really was one of those characters that, yeah, surely this guy's never going to die. Look at him, he's huge, So he did a great job there, and the voice acting as well was terrific, really, really good, and that blew me away back in the day when that came in. I couldn't believe it, and they did it so well, and you look forward to hearing those voice actors because they did a really great job. So all in all, I love this game, Grandia 2. Thank you very much for the hours and hours of fun, and I hope you enjoyed it too. So until the next time, take it easy.